In this week's edition of Weather Extra, we're going to take a moment to appreciate how September has gone so far. Because so far, September's gone pretty good. Let me show you why in one image. This is what we looked like heading into this week. In fact, this was the high-resolution satellite on Sunday, September 26th, right before the second rainmaker of the month of September came into Northern California. That's a large system in the Pacific. You can see California over here, the center of a very tightly wound area of low pressure, and a large area of cool air here with enough precipitation in it to bring meaningful rain to Northern California, even if not downpours to the Bay Area. We got meaningful rain in Northern California, and let me show why I would say meaningful rain. We're going to look at a uniquely colored map. And this one shows us where the precipitation is so far for this month in terms of average, the percent of average. And when you start to get into the deep shades of green up here for this northern third, you start to get up to around 150% of average rainfall so far for this period in September. Now, we don't get a lot of rain in September anyway, so we're not talking about blockbuster numbers, but we have gotten over 1.5 inches, a little more than that so far for some of these locations in far northernmost California. And let's not forget, this is where some of the biggest offenders were burning for fires. The Monument Fire was burning up here, the River Complex Fire. Those were two fires that delivered more smoke to the Bay Area this summer so far than any others, and thankfully, we've at least not been getting smoke from those because we've gotten some early season rains up here. And the reason why we've been able to do this is because these first two systems of September that came into California were able to do something special. They were able to have the right aim, because normally in September, our big concern with these first systems of the season is that they're going to have bad aim. And I'll show you the difference. Here's good aim, because this is what the first two storms have done. That one and the one before it. We had one that came through in the middle of the month, and we had one that came through just within this last week of the month. If we take that storm, watch the direction that evolved, and by the time it came into the coast of California, the alignment of the trough was a head-on, like a direct hit right with the coast. That's why we were able to get rain out of it, and that's why we didn't get any nasty, dry offshore winds, which we can typically have. Here's what these things typically look like in the fall when they have bad aim. We get one of those inside sliders, and you may have heard that before in forecasts. We've talked about them a lot over the last couple of falls. You get a big block in the atmosphere out here in the fall, and storms have to go around the long way. They then slide down the inside of California on the border with Nevada. That's what we call them, inside sliders. And the reason why we don't want that to happen is because every time we get an inside slider like this, it's one thing for them to come through like that in the upper levels of the atmosphere. But when you look at what it does down here on the ground, that's the scenario that gives us our strong offshore winds. That's the worst case scenario right now, considering how dry the landscape is. So the first two systems that came through here in September, they didn't do this. Odds are they would have. So far, September has done us two really nice favors. It'd be nice if we can keep this going for a while. But I think it's important to come away from seeing this with the understanding that as we go through the next 6 weeks, it's almost certain we're going to have several systems that end up coming through like that. And we're going to get offshore winds. And in addition to not getting the rain, which would be helpful, we're going to get those offshore winds on a landscape that is still critically dry. And when you look at a map like that, that shows you the energy release component, which is another way of saying how dry is the landscape? How much energy is there that should a fire get started? How flammable will the trees and the twigs and the branches and the grasses be? The deeper the shade of brown, the higher the energy release component. And for right now, for September, you can see we've kind of lessened the colors for brown up here where it's rained, but we still have areas through the Sierra Nevada where this is a high number. And that's going to be the concern going through October. We've done pretty good so far for September. It could have gone a lot worse. That map looks great. We haven't ended fire season yet, but at least these first two systems that have come through have done polite, well-behaved favors for us as far as fire weather is concerned. Now let's keep our fingers crossed going in through the next 6 weeks that we get more storms that look like that and not the inside sliders. We'll keep a close eye on it, and we'll track them for you as they come together. Paul Hagan will be in next week with another installment of Weather Extra.